this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums, and this is the tutorial on how I made the Fairy Garden upright mini album. So there's a lot of parts. I'm going to show you how I made the hidden paper clips. I'm going to show you how I made these paper beads to make the handle, and I'll show you how I made the handle. So I'm going to do a really quick flip through here. Now there's a very detailed flip through on my channel, but I'm just going to remind you what's in the book. Again, for more details, go check out the page. So there are 6 pages. They all have pockets in the back, and they're decorated the front and then the back side of the page as well. The very back side has a flip here, and it's got a box. The box is fairly deep. It's 3/4 of an inch deep. The way it attaches is there are brads or eyelets here in the front, and that ties. I'll show you the side. So here you can see how deep that pocket is. So let's get started with the tutorial. All right, for this project I used the 12 by 12 Artisan Cardstock in white. This, of course, is all available at Country Craft Creations. I suppose you could use the 8.5 by 11, but I did use the Artisan Cardstock. I used the heavyweight chipboard. I have 2 pieces that are 5 by 8. Actually, I'll go over that a little bit later, but let me tell you, I also used the glue from the Art Glitter Company. It's the Designer Dries Clear Adhesive from Art Glitter Company. I call it Art Glitter Glue. It really has no glitter in it. All right, so I also have score tape sheets. This is available from Country Craft Creation. It makes a nice finish. So between the score tape sheets and the glue from Art Glitter Company, those are my main adhesives for this project. I do have the fine tip in it, and I have this little piece that my friend gave me because I've lost all my pins. So anyhow, that is what I have to start with my project. All right, so as I said, we have heavyweight chipboard, and the first 2 pieces are 5 by 8. You'll need 2 pieces that are 5 by 8, 1 piece that's 2 by 5, and 2 pieces that are 4 by 5. All these I got from a 12 by 12 piece of chipboard, and then I also had some other pieces we'll use that are scraps. Now I've already done 1 cover, and we will need 7 by 10 to cover. So what I'm doing is using my scoreboard and these spacers from Country Craft Creations. These are 1-inch spacers. I will put 1 at the top and 1 at the side and make sure my cardstock is pushed against the top and the side. I'll peel off the backing of my score tape sheet, and I will lay it against the side, and making sure I get into that very top corner where my spacers are. So I'll put it against the side and then push it down, and I know I'm right against that spacer at the top. I'll remove the spacers, and you see there's 1 inch on each side. This is my favorite bone folder to use. This is from Dress Your Craft, available from Country Craft Creations. It's a non-stick bone folder. You see it's got the beveled edge on one side, and then it comes to a blunt, rounded tip on the other side. It fits in my hand really nicely, and between that and this pencil type stylus, that's all I need for bone folders. I simplify my life, and that is all I use. So now that we've got our cardstock adhered to the chipboard, I'm going to turn it over, and using the edge of my bone folder, again, this is why it's a great bone folder, just burnish real well so we get some good adhesion. Now I'll take the blunt beveled edge and go against the edge of the chipboard and push down so I can see where my chipboard is. I'll use the surface of my table and push my edges against it and fold it under. And then I'm taking my bone folder and pushing it. So again, do the same with the short sides. Just push down and especially push the corners because we want to see where the fold lines. All right, I'm taking a pair of scissors and I'm cutting those squares out of each of the corners. I'm cutting right on that score line. It's easy to see. Don't go too far, just go up to the next score line and cut. Don't cut any more than the score line, so you will have a perfect square when all is said and done. Now I'm going to use a different pair of scissors. I like a long blade pair of scissors for this. I'll fold in my tabs and I'll take the top edge of my scissors and go against the edge of where the chipboard is and just cut a little sliver of the cardstock. So folding it in, go against that top edge. You won't cut too much if you keep that top blade to the edge of the chipboard. Then I turn it entirely over and cut these 4 sides. This method, it's called the lay flat cover method, was developed from Tamara from Country Craft Creations, and it is a great method of making your cover. As you can see, there's only slivers left. All right, then I'll add my glue. I'm going to go ahead and put it against the edge of the chipboard, around the perimeter, and zigzag. You don't need a lot of glue. You don't need to overdo adhesive in this step because it's going to stay down. You don't need much of the glitter glue, art glitter glue, to hold it down. And plus you're going to put paper on the top of it, so this is not going to go anywhere. I'm taking a rag and wiping any overflow of my adhesive. Whoops. Thought I was going to get my finger. I moved it. All right, we put the glue down, put my bone folder right up against the edge of the chipboard, make sure the glue is distributed. Then when I fold it down, I'm trying to hit that very top corner of the chipboard, and then I continue on the short sides. Zigzag the glue, take that beveled edge of the bone folder, then pull the paper down. One more streak of glue against the edge of the chipboard, zigzag it, take my beveled edge and pull it down. So there is the one. I already covered the other one. As you can see, it's nice and crisp. I take my bone folder, go against the edge, and the 2 5x8 pieces are done. Now we're going to work on the 4x5 inch pieces. We're treating these as if they're the spines of the book. So to cover the 2 4x5 inch pieces, you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock that are 7 by 7. You need 1.5 inches on each side. So I'll take my 7 by 7 cardstock. Of course, I've already put my score tape on the back, but first I need to get my 1.5 inch spacer. That's going to go against the side. So the 1.5 inch spacers on the side, and we'll have the inch spacer on the top. Remove the backing of the score tape, and with the 5 inch side against the yellow spacer, push it down. So as you can see, I have 1.5 inches from side to side, or really top and bottom. and then 1 inch on the sides. We're going to treat it a little bit differently, but we go ahead and burnish real well. Take the bone folder, push against the edge of the chipboard so we can see where the chipboard is. And then do the same as we did before. I like to use the surface to fold it down flat and make sure our edges are crisp and I can see where my score line is. So I fold the 2 long edges down and burnish real well. So of course now we're not going to have squares because we have 1.5 inches. So now we have rectangles. So we're going to cut those rectangles off of the 4 corners. So again, just go up, just follow the score line, or the, not the score line, but the fold line. If you follow the fold line, you can't go wrong. So just go up to where those fold lines intersect. And don't go ahead because we have to treat this one differently. On these pieces that we're, again, considering these the spine, we're just going to fold in the 1-inch pieces. Oops, wait. I forgot. I have to take my long blade scissors and cut off the little slivers, the little teeny triangles, which would otherwise be overhang. Don't forget, you take the top blade of the scissors, go against your chipboard, and just cut off those little pieces. Cut off 4, then turn it over and cut off 4. So you'll get all 8 sides of your cardstock. And you can see the little slivers on the table. They're not very big. All right, now we are going to fold just the 1-inch sides down. We're not going to do anything with those 1.5 inch sides. So that's what we're going to do, just the 2 1-inch sides. So again, take a piece. Take some glue, go against the edge of the chipboard. Use your bone folder, distribute the glue on that very edge of the chipboard. I got a little glue on there. And then burnish. I'm just wiping some because there was a little excess glue. I went a little glue crazy. Go against the edge of your chipboard. Zigzag. I mean, you don't have to zigzag. You could write your name if you wanted to in glue. And fold it and burnish it. Go against the edge because I like my crisp, clean lines. I don't think anyone notices, but it makes me feel good. I'll take my bone folder and again burnish. I like to leave this piece with a nice, so you can see the edge of the chipboard. It helps with the next step. Okay, we've got those 2. And we've got the 2 5x8 pieces. Now we've got the 2 by 5 inch piece. So I am treating this as a spine piece, but it turns out I really didn't need to. But I'm still going to. No big deal. We want to, this is the flap on the top that's going to hold everything together. So I am putting this down. This is a 5 by 7 inch piece of cardstock. I'm peeling off all these little pieces of score tape backing. I needed all these little pieces because I was just piecing it together. No big deal. It's still gonna lay nice and flat. So that 5 inch side is going to go next to the yellow spacer. And I'm going to speed through this because it's repetitive, but we're going to do the same things we did with the other pieces. Just burnish down against the edge of the chipboard, fold it, make sure you can see where those lines are on the corners. Cut the corners out. Much faster this way. And then take your scissors, go against the edge, and cut any of the overhang. See, there's a little bit, you can see it jogging out. That's what I was showing. And then here I am gluing the 1.5 inches on one side. In reality, you need to glue all of the pieces down. So even the 1.5 inches on the one side that I didn't. So I didn't glue that one down, but I do later. But that is done for now. And then let's move on. Now let's get all our pieces and put them together. All right, I'm using my scoreboard. We're going to start with a 5x8 piece and then one of our 4x5 inch pieces. And what's going to happen is we're going to have the chipboard side facing down, and we're going to put glue on this 1.5 inch flap. I'm trying to stay about 1/4 inch away from the edge of where the chipboard is underneath. And then I will attach the 5x8 to the 4x5 just by putting it right down. I'm making sure they're adhered well, and then I'll turn it over and burnish this side. So now we're going to adhere glue to this other 1.5 inch flap. Again, trying not to get to the very edge. Add the glue, and then here I'm turning it around and taking the next 5x8 piece and butting it right up against the edge. And basically what's going to happen is the layers of chipboard are going to be even. Once you burnish that, the layers of chipboard are going to be level. And then I have the 5x8, 4x5, 5x8, and now we're going to add another 4x5. So again, I turn it chipboard side facing down. Add glue to the bottom. And have that 5x8 piece butted up right against it. Push it down. Burnish it real well. Burnish that side. So we have 4x5, 5x8, 4x5. And what do I have next? The 2x5. And this is where I realize, oops, I should have folded this down. No harm, no foul. I will go ahead and do it now. So I'll put that paper down, burnish it real well. And then I'm turning this over, adding glue onto that 1.5 inch tab. Not going right near the edge of the chipboard, trying to stay away from it. I'll put some glue down here. I'm up against the top edge of my, there we go, of my scoreboard because it's a nice flat surface. So I will go ahead and put that down, burnish it real well. And now we've got all the pieces together. So you'll see that flap on the top? That's going to be where our closure is. We're going to have a little tie going from one side to the other. Okay, to enforce this, I'm going to take a couple of pieces of 2.5 by 4 15/16 piece of cardstock. And these are going to go right over where the folds are. Now I guess I could add a larger piece from one end to the other, but I didn't. So I have 4 pieces cut out. I'm going to add glue to all those 4 pieces, and I'm using my scoreboard just to keep everything straight. So I go just a sliver over the edge to put it down. Just make sure it's straight. And I'll do the next one. Again, this just helps reinforce everything and also covers the chipboard. So I just put it on the bottom, making sure it's parallel, and use my bone folder and burnish it and distribute all that glue. I'm not going to fold it. I'm going to let it dry before I fold it. I'm erasing the lines. That's what I was doing over there. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to let it dry before I try to crease it real well. I want to make sure that those pieces are adhered. So I use my bone folder and burnish real well. And then I need one more piece for the next, and I go ahead and put that on. And I'll work on the hinge and the page while that is going to dry. All right, let's make a hinge. For the hinge, you'll need a piece that's 4.5 by 12. I'm going to put the 12-inch side at the 12-inch side at the top of my scoreboard, and we're going to score 1/2 inch from 2 to 10.5. So our hinges are going to be 1/2 inch, and our gusset is going to be 1/2 inch. Just make sure when you're doing this that the top of the paper stays against the edge of your scoreboard and the side stays against the side. That'll make sure that your hinge stays nice and straight. So 1/2 inch between 2 to 10.5. Stop at 10.5. You know what? While I have the scoreboard out, all right, write this down for later, but while I have the scoreboard out, you're going to need 6 pieces of cardstock that are 6.5 by 9.5. We're going to put the 9.5 side at the top, score, at 1/2 inch and at 5. All right, we're going to put that aside, and I can move the scoreboard away for later. Okay, so we have all these lines on here. Again, what we have are 6 sets of hinges and 1 gusset in between. So hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge. I'm going to turn this over so the bumpy side faces up. I'm going to fold on the score line in between the 2 hinges. So I know I have a hinge, hinge here at the bottom. So I'm going to fold in the center of those 2 1/2 inch and burnish. I'm making sure I'm lined up. Actually, I'm not lined up, but I want to make sure I'm lined up at the top, at the sides. From here on in, we're going to fold at every 3rd bump. So I'm ignoring this one, and I'm going to fold here. I'm folding up, making sure it's parallel to the sides. I'll do the next one, every 3rd one. Now, if you fold the wrong one, it's no big deal. Either redo it or just work with what you have. And one more, which will be the last set of hinges. So now when we, now the bumpy side is facing down. So when we just put it on our surface, you are going to see there are, I wouldn't call them mountains yet, but you can definitely see where we've scored it because those want to fold and they want to fold up. So now I take my fingers and put it down on the top. And you know, if you hold this down with your thumbs and pull this towards you, where we burnished, that's going to want to create a mountain. It definitely wants to create a mountain. So we'll fold it up enough that you can grab it. The bottom isn't burnished, but it's scored. And I'm going to take the paper and fold it down and then fold it up using my thumbs just to crease it a little. It's not a full burnishing, but it's helping to train the paper. Now it's easier to hold on to and pull the next place we burnished and let that create a mountain and fold again. And we'll repeat that. So all 6 places where we've burnished and we want that to create a mountain, it will create a mountain. Okay, so now you can definitely see where we have the mountains. I'm going to pull this so the gussets are all down flat on my table surface. I'll pull them all towards me, keeping those hinges together. No, there's no glue still. We're just still training the paper. And then I'll burnish this way, and then I'll fold them away from me. Again, the gusset, that 1/2 inch piece in between them all, is flat down on the table. Now I'll just have them all facing up, and there we go. So again, no glue yet, but we'll do glue next. The sun's coming in. I probably need to readjust things. I like the sun coming in, but of course it wreaks havoc when I'm doing a tutorial. All right, now I'm going to grab my Designer Dries Clear adhesive, and I turned it over so the pointy side is facing down, and I open this up so I can get in here, and I'm not going to go right to the edge of my paper. I'm going to stay about 1/4 inch away and just zigzag, and then I'll take a bead of glue and go at the top. So you see I've got glue. It's not a heck of a lot, but it's a good amount. Now I'll turn it upside down, I'll squeeze this and rub my fingers back and forth to distribute that glue. If any comes out, clean it up, because otherwise you'll get glue all over the place. And I'll do the same with the next one. Zigzag, make a line, pinch it, and distribute. So if you put glue at the very end, it's definitely going to seep out. So just be aware of that. Now I am in an area where it is, whoops, I got some on the bottom. Is that a big deal? No. It's cool out, so it's not hot, and it's humid. So this is not drying that quick. So I did the last 3. I'm going to turn this upside down, pinch those together, and then there we go. There are my hinges. While it's still a little wet, I'm going to take these and distribute the glue some more with my bone folder. We'll just go one way and then the other. If glue is seeping out here, you need to clean it up. I know not to put any at the edge, so I generally don't have any, but sometimes some does. And then I'll turn it and go this way. So now I've got my hinges. I'll let that dry for a second while I put our pages together. Isn't that pretty? Pretty hinges. All right, let's get the pages. All right, so I've got the 1/2 inch tab facing away from me at the top. I'm going to fold that towards me and burnish. Then I'm going to take and just gently, so it's still sort of rounded, it's not folded, put that underneath that 1/2 inch tab and then push this down and burnish. I will go ahead and add glue. Don't need too much because we're actually going to add paper on top of here. You noticed I did not miter the corners. I don't feel like I need to. I have glue seeping out, so I'm cleaning that up. So that is our pages. All right, let's review again what we've got. So we've got that cover, we've got that top 2-inch piece is the flap that's going to go over the cover. We know we're going to have some kind of attachment from there to there, ribbon or elastic, still not sure. So that there's the bottom. That front 5x8 piece is between the two 5x8 pieces. Actually, the 4x5 piece is going to be where the hinge goes. So we're going to take the hinge and let's just eyeball it. We're going to center it top to bottom the way that this is orientated right now. And I want you to take that first hinge and it's going to be 1/4 of an inch from where the chipboard meets that 4x5 inch piece. The back of it, we're going to have a 1-inch gap between where that chipboard meets the 4x5 piece and the last hinge is going to be. So it's going to be closer to the front of the book than the back of the book. I'm going to go ahead and add glue. I'll put it in that little crevice caused by where the hinge pops up, of course, on the underside. And I just use art glitter glue as the adhesive to attach the hinge. I generally use a little more here than I use other places, but that's just because it's ultra important that the hinge stays where you want it to be. So I zigzag between the hinges and then a little bit on those wing pieces. I don't do that whole wing piece because I want to be able to hold it with my fingers. So you can see how much glue I've got. So again, we're going to put the front hinge 1/4 of an inch away from where that very top hinge, from where that fold is going to be for that front 5x8 piece. Make sure it's parallel and make sure it's straight. I want it to be parallel to the top and the bottom. And that's where the chipboard is, and I'm measuring it. It is exactly 1 inch from that last hinge to where the paper is going to fold. And when I place it down first, once I know it's good, then I take my fingers and burnish that glue in. I'll take the bone folder in a little bit, but I go to the center one and then move the hinge that's on the left over to the right, just fold it. The one that's on the right, move it over to the left, and then go to the next one towards the outside and just push down next to that hinge so that way it's burnished real well. You could use a bone folder if you don't like, some people don't like touching the paper. And then very gently, because you don't want to push too much when this paper is still a little wet, I just go on the outside and burnish to distribute the glue. Now, of course, the flaps, the wings, are not attached yet. We'll get to that in a second, but I'm just going to worry about the hinge right this second. So I'll push them all to one side and burnish with the edge of my bone folder. Pull them all to the other side and burnish again. So now I will add glue to that wing. Just go around the perimeter of it, back and forth, and burnish real well. And at this point, I'm not going to fold the cover yet. I'm still gonna let it dry flat before I fold it. Now I'll move the hinges all the way facing the other way. As you can see, I turned it around just so I could get to it. Go around the perimeter of that little wing piece, add some down at the bottom. I know this piece isn't going to go anywhere because we're going to cover this part, of course. But I, again, want to make sure there's a reasonable amount of glue. it's not seeping out. You see, I haven't had to clean it up yet. I mean, maybe a little drippage, but not much. But it's enough to adhere it. All right, make sure you put the other 5 pages together so we have our tubes. And our tubes are what is going to be the pages. All right, now our book has dried. And I'm going to gently fold the covers, taking my bone folder, go back and forth very gently. You don't want to poke a hole. If you do, you'll have to grab a piece of cardstock and cover it up. It's not the end of the world. By the way, I am putting the pages in the book right now. You don't need to. You can decorate them first and put them in the book, but I want to show you how to put them in, so figure might as well put it in. So anyhow, take your bone folder, that blunt tip, it's rounded, so it's not going to poke a hole unless you use that very pointy part. Or you could use the pencil stylus and just go against the edge of it, that pointed edge. You can sharpen those with sandpaper, but you don't want to get it too pointy. So anyhow, burnish at the score line, the fold line. The glue should be dried so it will stay flat. I just move the book slowly and burnish back and forth as I move it. And I'll just burnish, make sure it's going to be flat. And then I'm going to start at the back of the book. And again, you can wait till it's decorated. But start at the back, the one that's got that 1-inch gap between the back cover and the first hinge. I'm going to dry fit it first to make sure it fits, and in this case it does. But if for some reason it doesn't fit, you can take scissors and just cut a little triangle out of the top half of that hinge, just a teeny bit, and that's enough to get the page down. It should be enough. If not, cut a little bit more, cut on the other side. I'll start at the last hinge and the side facing the back. I'm going to add glue to the very top, basically the top third. I just want to make sure we've got the right orientation here. So I'll add glue at the very top of that hinge and not go down any more than a third of the way, half of the way at the most. So just 2 beads of glue approximately. And then I'm going to turn the hinge so I can reach the front, but of course you don't want to fold it down and get glue on the rest of the hinge. And then while I've got the glue, I'm going to open my tube. You want to open it, but it can't be too wide or else it's not going to fit. And then just sort of straddle it down till it fits. And I've got about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the hinge to the bottom of the page. You could have a little bit less. I'm also making sure it's parallel to the side on both sides. Now you just don't want to put it all the way down to the bottom of the hinge. If you do, then back it off and come up just a little bit. You want to have enough that it's going to adhere, but not too much that it's going to scrape the gusset as you turn the page. So we'll do the next one. I'll add some glue to the top portion. Open up my hinge, put it down enough. And then when I put this down, I make sure it's parallel to the side and parallel on the bottom. It should be perfectly straight, and burnish. And I'll go ahead and do the rest of these. Now what happened is, you'll see in a second, one of these pages seemed like it was a little bit too tight, so I did take scissors and cut a little bit of the hinge, but I get the rest of the pages down. Everything is parallel and it works perfectly. And then once they're all down, you'll see in a second, I take my bone folder and I just burnish real well. Again, the hinge is the most important part of the book. So I will just go through, whoops, each page, burnish at the hinge, and then with all the pages facing in one direction, I'll burnish, turn them all the other way and burnish. With each page open, I'll burnish. I do a lot of burnishing, but I want to make sure it adheres, it's flat, it sticks down well, and the pages turn. So you're also training the paper to have the pages turn easily. And it's not just for this project, it's for all mini albums. So it goes back and forth and it works wonderfully. And now if you're wondering what we're doing with that 1-inch piece in the back, well, we're going to put a box there. So we're going to start on that next. All right, to make the box, it's going to have 2 long sides, a top and a bottom, and it's going to have a front. I'm going to move these pieces away and we'll describe them as we get to them. But the box front is 3 inches by 5 inches. To cover it, you'll need a piece that is, well, actually, it should be 5 by 8, but I cut it 4 by 6, and I'm just going to use it. I'm taking off my backing paper. I'm going to center this here. Why I cut it for a 1/2 inch instead of a full inch, I don't know. But again, I'm just going to go with it. It's not pertinent to the construction of the hinge, so it's going to stay. So I am just going to do the same as if I were covering a cover of a book. I'm going to cut these little squares. These are the teeniest squares I've had from the cover. I was cutting paper pretty late last night and probably just did not think this through. But again, it's not the end of the world. I'll cut these. Turn it over and cut these. And I will add glue. And more glue here. Because now you're a pro at covering books or covering covers. And then we'll just burnish this way because I just like it. All right, so there is the front of the box. So now it's not difficult, it's just these pieces are smaller than normal, so they tend to be a little fiddly. So you'll need 2 pieces excuse me, that are 3/4 of an inch by 7 7/8. You'll need 2 pieces that are 3/4 of an inch by 4 7/8. To cover the 3/4 by 7 7/8, you have a piece that's 2 by 9. I am just going to eyeball this one. You know, I was really nice with the using the spacers and everything to cover the other book. Why I'm not being so careful now. I think it's just because when I was cutting it, it was late at night. To cover these short sides, you'll need a piece of cardstock that's 2 by 6. Oh, I know why I didn't want them so big, because if you had an inch piece, this is only 3/4 of an inch, it would be too much. I used 2 pieces of score tape. I could have used 2 3/8 of an inch. Maybe one would have overlapped it. But I used a 3/8 and a 1/4 inch piece of score tape to adhere these. You could use glue also. I just went that route. All right, and then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to fold it down, fold this, fold that. We'll burnish. So let's just go ahead and cover these. We're going to cover them all, meaning one side's going to be white when you're done. The other side is also going to be white when you're done. I will go ahead and cut down the corners. So I'll add glue here. I'll do this one with you, and then we'll do the other ones in fast motion. Or actually, we'll just do this one and we'll do the other ones off camera. So I'm going to cover this, and yes, there's a couple of layers of cardstock here, but that's okay. It'll just make it that much stronger. And then I'll take this one and cover it. Oh, I didn't add glue. That's why it's not sticking. So that's what we'll do. We'll get the rest of the pieces all covered up. There's a little overhang here because I didn't trim it down, but I'll trim it now. Okay, let's get these 4 pieces covered. All right, I've got my 4 pieces covered. And then I've got pieces of cardstock that are 1.5 inches by 5 and 1.5 inches by 8. What we're basically going to do is score it 1/2 inch, and we're going to attach this. It's a little bit longer than it needs to, but we're going to cut it down a little bit. We're going to miter the corners. We're going to attach it, and then these pieces, the longer pieces, are going to be to attach it down to our album. So let's take all 4 pieces and score them with the short side at the top at 1/2 inch. And then I'll grab scissors. And so this is 8 inches. These are 7 7/8. So I'm going to fold this, and I'm going to cut at a miter. And I'm going to take off a little bit of the piece. And that's why this was a little bigger to start. I'm going to fold this. We'll burnish on the score line. I'll add glue to that 1/2 inch tab. And actually, I'm going to move this out of the way and get a surface. So I'm going to, the 1 inch piece is going to be down on the surface. The 1/2 inch with the glue is up. I'm going to put my little piece against it so it's flat, and then I'll burnish it. Then I'll go ahead and burnish, and we'll do that to the rest of it. So this fold is equal to the edge of the 3/4 inch piece. So we'll do that with the other 3 pieces. All right, and I have a 1 inch by about 4 inch piece. I'm going to score with the short side at the top at 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to cut this into smaller pieces, about 7/8, a little less, maybe 3/4 of an inch. Or actually, I'll tell you what, cut it into 1 inch. And then we're going to fold it and miter. So your end piece will be at the widest portion, no more than 3/4 of an inch. So you will be making, it will look like a little trapezoid when it's folded. Hexagon when it's open. Is that a hexagon? Alright, so we'll get our 4 little pieces, clear off all this debris, and then take your short pieces and I'm going to lay it flat. And we're going to take our little piece, and with this folded edge, it's going to go at the very edge. I'm going to cut this one down a little bit more. So this will go at the edge, and then we'll do another one over at this side. So there we go with that. All right, I have attached those little pieces on the sides of the small pieces. So here's the 1 inch flap that's going to go down on the surface. And what we're going to do is we're going to, the smaller piece is going to go inside the 2 longer pieces. But it's going to go right up to the very top. So we're going to use this little flap to adhere it, and you also can add glue to this 1 inch piece. You want to make sure it's really square. So, so first I feel like I need to trim this down just a smidgen because it'll go a little bit too big, too wide. And I will add glue to this little tab, and we'll do one at a time. So I'm gonna again put this piece on the inside, the top of the long piece, and the whole front side of the short piece will be parallel at the corner. And just to let that adhere, I'm going to put a little clip there. Now I'll add some glue to this tab. It's hard to see, but I'm doing it. And we're going to adhere that. I'm holding my clip, getting it ready. So again, this top piece will be parallel with this whole small piece. Adhere that little tab. And there we go. I'm going to turn this towards me. I'm going to add some glue to the very edge of that small piece. We should have done that before. I should have told you to do that before, but I didn't. Pushing it together. Oops, it moved. And I'll just hold this and let it dry for a minute. Now I've already cut decorative pieces, and that will be the next step, is to put the decorated paper on the inside. All right, so we're good with that. So now I have this piece. I'm going to be daring and add glue to these tabs. It's going to go like this, and again this is going to go inside the two bigger pieces. So I glue here, glue there, and then I got smart, I'll add glue to the edge and the edge. And hold that together. And same with that. All right, to make sure it really stays down nice, I'll add a little bit of glue to here, to the underside, you can't see, but to there. I'm going to use my little cutting mat as a square pattern to make sure that everything is at the correct angle. I'll add glue under here, under there, push that down, and burnish. Remove that and put it down here for a minute and let that dry. All right, we're good. All right, so now I cut some pieces. So this is 3/4 of an inch, so you want it a little bit smaller. I just cut it a smidgen shorter than 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to have plain blue on the inside. And as I'm adhering it, I see that it's a little bit too long over there. I'm going to cut it. It's no big deal. Start at the top of the box because the bottom is going to be covered by the by that little cover, that little 3 by 5 inch piece. All right, that's good. I'll add glue to this one. Oops. Actually, I'm going to trim it down a little bit. Knowing that one piece was too big, this one was cut the same, so I know this will be too big. So there, we've got it on the inside. I'll take my bone folder and burnish it. There, so we've got it on the inside. There's a little bit of a gap between the cover. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Okay, this is the top of the box. So I'm going to take a piece. Let me dry fit it first. And I see I need to trim it. And there we are. Add glue. Put it in. I'm sorry, I have to turn this so I can see it. And there we go. I'm going to burnish it real well. All right, now again, I don't have any on the bottom because you're not going to see it. I mean, you could put it if you want to, but you're not going to see it. So now we have this piece. And our best bet is to add an inch and a half piece to the bottom, attach it to the bottom, and then glue it to the top. This piece is 3x5, so it should be bigger than the box, so it will fit nicely. Now the only thing is, once you glue it, you want to really make sure that it dries. You want to hold it down, make sure it dries, maybe put a book on it. So do that right before you're ready to do that. So I'll get my inch and a half piece and we'll work on that. So this is an inch and a half by 5. I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. I'm going to fold on that score line and I'll miter it. I'm going to adhere, in this case, I'm going to put the inch and a half piece on the bottom. So the inch and a half piece is going to go on the chipboard. So I'll put it on here on the bottom of this 3x5 inch piece. Make sure it's adhered. Burnish that real well. So you're going to put glue on the outside of this piece. Whoops, that's not the outside. On the inside of this piece. So this piece I'm putting glue on the inside, and you'll notice that it is not even with the chipboard. It comes in a little bit. When I mitered it down to about 4 3/4. So now this piece will go on top of the chipboard. Make sure it's even. And we're just gluing down the tab on the bottom. It's still open here, so now since it's open I can go ahead and burnish. And then the last thing we're going to do is add glue along the edge of this box. I'll do it on the bottom piece too. And then close it, make sure it's even. There's glue seeping out, so I'm going to take my bone folder. All right, I'm going to lay something on this, maybe a paper pad, doesn't have to be too heavy, and we're going to let it dry. Okay, we're going to continue working on the box of the back cover. We're actually even going to decorate it before we put it in. Let's just make it easy. So I have a piece that's 6.5 by 5 for the back cover. I'll put the 6.5 side at the top and score it 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch. We will miter this, so miter up to that score line on both sides. And also, I'd like to round, whoops, sorry for making the noise. I'm going to round the corners of this. Now you don't need to if you don't want to, but I do like to. And you also could use a decorative punch if you wanted to. I just simply like my corners rounded for flaps. I'll go ahead and turn this over and burnish it. And this has dried. I'm going to dry fit this. This flap is going to go on this very top piece. So I will add glue to the inside of this flap. Put it here. Make sure it's even. And burnish. Okay, so there's the top flap. Now I am going to use a magnet here. If you wanted to, you could use the 2 circle closures with the string. Attach that to the pattern paper and then glue it on. But I am not going to do that. I am going to use the magnets. Okay, this is going to go on the outside. This is going to go on the inside. So before I do that, I need to put a magnet. So I've got a pair of magnets. These are the basic gray magnets. I'm going to peel off the backing. I have a set of them, so I have the positive one and the negative one. I think the hardest part about using these is peeling off the backing. I peeled off one side and I'm going to adhere the magnet in the center, leaving about 1/4 of an inch showing. I'm going to take the positive piece, peel off the backing of that. I know I'm going to have a couple of layers, so usually I put it on the uppermost layer, but in this case it's not that important to do because it's going to adhere. Alright, I'm pushing this down so it sticks to the magnet. So there we go. I'm going to burnish this down. And I'll push that because I don't want to push too much on that. Okay, so for the inside piece, I have a piece of cardstock. I'm sorry, decorative paper, and it's just a plain blue. It's cut 5 5/8 by 4 7/8, and I know I need to round the corners. And then I'll add glue to this. And that will go down here. There is about a 1/16 of an inch showing. So that will close like that. Now the front, so I sort of cheated and I cut the same size of another blue paper, but I cut a hole out of it because I was using that piece somewhere else. Why did I do that? Well, nobody's going to see this, and like I said, I was going to use that somewhere else, so this way I save a little paper. I wasn't sure when I started this how much paper I was going to use, so I was very parsimonious with the paper, but as I got closer to the end of it, I realized I was fine. I had enough paper for this and another project. Oops, this is what I need to do. Okay, you may have seen I got tape on there, but that's okay. So either, I think I want to round the corners. I want to go along with the look of this. I'll add glue. cover this. Oh, I'll give you the size of this piece. Hold on. There is 3/16 of an inch on both sides. So this piece is 4.5 by 5.25. Now, so my idea for this is, oh, we're going to have another little flap. That's going to go on the inside. Okay, this white piece, I had to remember what I was doing. This white piece is 4 7/8. No. 4 and 4 and 4 7/16. And with the long side at the top, I'm going to score it 1/2 inch. And I'm going to make a pocket out of this, but let's decorate the front of it. So seek for magic did not make sense to me. Seek for magic. What does that mean? Well, I don't know, but I don't care because I'm not going to keep it. So I'm going to put this piece on here with just the smallest border. Now, I'm not putting a magnet on this piece. It's okay. On the inside, is I going to do this? Yes. I'm putting a piece of light blue that measures 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. Going to go on the inside of there. Don't glue it down yet. That is going to go, I do believe in fairies. It's going to go down, and then we're going to put this pocket on top. I'm going to just add glue to the inside here and put I do believe in fairies on there. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to miter. And then quickly, because the glue, I don't want the glue to dry. All right, that's going to go down like that. All right, I'm going to add glue to the underside, including the tab, and then just center it. You know, I do remember now that in my design, I should have looked at my sketch. I was going to round these corners. I mean, it's not a big deal. It just was part of my design. That's okay. Okay, so that's down. I had a scrap of glitter cardstock that, so I liked this You Are Magic. I cut the glitter cardstock about 1/4 inch bigger I just traced around it and then just cut it 1/4 of an inch bigger. I'm going to cover the Seek for Magic with my glitter cardstock. I added some dimensional adhesive onto my You Are Magic. Just going to add a dot of glue just in case the adhesive on that tape gets sticky. I'm adding the glue and putting that so there we go. So Your Magic, we don't seek for magic anymore, and I do believe in fairies. I sort of like that. All right. Now that's a very small sentiment, which is perfect because I like the Welcome to My Fairy Garden as a front piece for this. So I cut a border just with a 1/16 of an inch border all around it. I'm going to glue that down. That's why I saved my scraps of cardstock so I can use that. And then do I want the flowers or do I want the green? I sort of like the green a little better, but you could do whatever you want. Why did I need this now? I don't remember. I think I intended to put the flowers down, but sometimes when you take a look at it, you just change your mind. So I'll center that on here. Don't forget I've got the magnet, so I want to make sure this stays adhered to the top. I have to hold this down. And then Welcome to My Fairy Garden. I'm going to actually justify it to the bottom. There. But that part with the magnet I didn't cover. So that's what that box is going to look like. I have this piece cut to go on the inside. Now I see that I need to trim it a little bit, so I'll do that. So 4 7/8. Yeah, it looks like I need to trim it less than a 1/16 of an inch. It's okay if it's a little bit more. That's much better. And I did cut it shorter than this, knowing that you can't see at the very bottom. So should I put it in now? Yeah, let's do it. All right, I'm going to add glue here. And on the bottom, I'll add it on the outside. Put it in, knowing it's going to come up. And there we go. So there we go. Oh, I've got some pieces to put on the outside. So now that I loved this design, but now that I've got everything together, I'm wondering, do I want the pink? Oh, well, that's okay. So I have 4 pieces cut, 2 for the sides and 2 for the top and bottom. I'm looking at this realizing I need to trim. And I suggest waiting until everything is decorated before you put the box in the back. When you're ready, just add liquid glue to the bottom. Make sure everything is even to the sides of the box or of the mini album, and then adhere using your bone folder to burnish the inside of the box. All right, I'm going to start decorating some pages. So I have cut some of the coordinating cardstock, and this is, so the pages are 4.5 by 6.5. This is 4 3/8 by 6 3/8. This is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. I guess I have to decide if I'm going to use this cut side. And then this, by the way, this is 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. The pink is 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. And this frame was in the frames and tags. I popped it up, put in just some cardstock or decorative paper underneath. So this will go there. So, and then this will go on top. I've popped that up. So what I'm going to do is glue the flower paper and then notch the top. Okay. So then this will go So I'm gluing this down on 3 sides in case I want to make that a pocket, which I might. So the secret is it's glued. Now I take these corners and sort of push them in a little bit so it raises up, hold it down so it dries that way. And this I put on some adhesive backing. And I'll also add a little bit of glue here. All right, so there is for page 1. Okay, so this is page 2. I'll show you what it has. It's got, this will open and this will open. And you make me smile. That's pretty cute. So this was a piece that is 4 by 9. You score it with the 9" side at the top at 3 6 1/8. You'll end up cutting this side down a little bit. That's a 3 by 4 card, of course. And before you adhere it, put in some twine or ribbon or whatever you want to tie it on the back of the folded card. Add the pattern paper and then add that. I also added a little strip of this paper and put a little mushroom motif there at the bottom. Now, the front of page 3, let's make this one together. So you'll need a 7.5 by 8 piece of cardstock, and we are going to score this at 4. With the 8" side at the top. Is that right? Hopefully that's right. Yes. And then with the 7.5 side at the top, score at half and at 7. I plan these out and then I think about it. And I'm going to cut on that score line up to the other score line, miter it, and then cut right across the score line up to the score line. And same with this piece. I'm going to miter it, and then I'm going to cut on the score line up to the score line. I'll miter this and this. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and fold this piece and this piece. And what's going to happen is, so we have these flaps that'll go down. We'll have a little pocket there on the side, and then this will close. So I'll go ahead and put my pattern paper down and adhere this and show you what we got. So I adhered that onto the front. I put it over to the left-hand side, so I put a little piece of blue paper on the right-hand side. There's about 3/8 of an inch showing here. Inside, I put 2 pieces of the paper with the blue butterflies on both sides. On here, I put a cut apart, fussy cut out one of the fairies. Over here, I took this piece of the fairy paper and I just put it on my cutting surface and took a craft knife and cut a couple of lines on it that are 1 3/4 inch wide, and then I glued it down on all 4 sides, but left it open. I didn't glue the center down, so I could take these tags from the frame and tag and put it in, just a little bit of ribbon on the top. I did add a magnet here and here to keep that closed. The front, I put the blue paper down as a first mat, then the fairy paper down. I adhered this from the ephemera just on the sides, sort of popped it up in the middle so I could get this piece of this vellum little envelope on there. I didn't even glue this shut, but I should. I added a couple of sequins inside, some iridescent sequins. Now this was made with a 5x5 piece of vellum, so let me show you how to make that vellum envelope. This is simply a 5x5 piece of vellum. I put it at the 2-inch mark and draw a line diagonally, punch, punch, and one more. Actually, one more because oops. So I'm just going to look at this and see how we could do this without a punch board. So it's 5x5. You would take one side and fold it in at 2 1/4, and the other side folded in also at 2 1/4. I did punch stuff. I did round the corners on those diagonal pieces. And then take one of the folds and come up. So you could probably do that even without a punch board, and then the tag will fit right inside there. I just add a little dab of glue on there and it's slid in the pocket. So that is how I did this page, and of course there's the hidden pocket. Okay, let me show you page 4 and then I'll show you how to make it. Page 4 has a circled closure with a little piece of elastic. One side opens up to the left, one opens to the right, and there's a pocket in the center. Let me show you how to make it and then we'll talk about decorating. Alright, to make it you'll need 3 pieces of paper. One is 5 1/2 by 5. That one you'll score on 2 long sides and 1 short side. And then you'll need 2 that are 4 3/4 by 6 1/2. one score at 3/4 and one score at 1/2. You will attach the pieces that you scored on one side. The one that you scored at 3/4 will go on the left side. The one that you scored at 1/2 will go on the right side. Once you put that down, then you will put the pocket justified to the bottom. Here's where we put the pocket. I think I had to trim this down a little bit. So I don't know exactly what the measurements were, but I did trim it down a little bit so it would fit in between the two flaps. I already cut a piece of cardstock 4x4, and then I cut down the 4x4 cut apart a little bit smaller. So I'm gluing down that yellow 4x4 piece, and then here is the piece that says feeling fluttery. I glue right on top of that. Now I will adhere the bottom part. I add a little piece of tape to that bottom part just so things will slide in the pocket real easy. And then I glue down the sides. So I have a piece of scrap paper that with the yellow dots, I had to cut a little bit down so it would fit in the pocket. And of course I'm using the butterfly paper for the feeling fluttery. I take plain coordinating yellow cardstock, decorative paper, and put that on the inside of the right and the left side. And on the outside, I'm going to put the butterfly paper. So I cut it down to fit for both sides. But before I glue it down, I mark where I want to put the eyelet. So one side is going to have the eyelet with a little bit of elastic going through, and the other side is going to have a brad. I had to trim off a little bit. I make a hole, put the eyelet in, and use my crocodile to secure that. I add the elastic, and I just put a little piece of score tape on it. Then on the other side, I had a cute little butterfly brad, but the color was wrong. So I cut a couple of circles from some of the scrap pink paper, glue 3 together, find the center, put a little pink brad in there, and put that on the paper. I add a little bit of score tape on top of it just to make sure everything stays secure. I add a little piece of packing tape too, and then I adhere that. I put that pink paper behind just so I can see exactly what I'm doing. Adding the yellow paper for the inside. And then I take this piece and just try to fit to see where the elastic needs to be. I needed to pull it a little more taut, but I didn't. It needed to be a little tighter, but it still works. I glue it down. I have the score tape. I add some extra glue, add a little extra piece of tape, just to make sure that elastic's not going to go anywhere. One more piece of score tape, peel off the backing, add some glue, and then adhere that down onto the right side. And so now you see that will attach with the circle closure. I'll glue this right side inside yellow piece. I like how it fits, it's pretty. And then I have some journaling cards that I glue all together, and they will go in the pocket I glue that other butterfly. I wanted to round the corners just to soften it up and have a little bit different. And that Never Stop Dreaming. Oh, I rounded the corners of this one with that pretty plaid. And so they will go in the pockets. I glue that yellow polka dot paper to the pocket. Add the little tab so you know where it's not the tab, the little circle, so you know there's something in that pocket. And then just quick look. So I put a scrap of some of that blue paper on the left side. It's about 1 3/4 inches wide. This was a piece of ephemera I put there. This is about 2.5 by 2.5, and that's about 2 5/8 by 2 5/8. Little butterfly sticker. This is about 4.5 by 5, and a couple of butterfly stickers. Oh, I did take just a little scrap of blue paper and put it underneath just to add a little bit of interest, and that's how I decorated that page. Oh, the outside here, I just layered several different elements. That's a blue tag from the collection. Then I have just a pink circle, a scalloped glittery paper from my stash, another circle, butterfly popped up, and that was cut out one of the tags, and then I fussy cut a couple of butterflies to put there, and that just makes the top. And that's what we have for that page. Now let's move on to page 5. Page 5 is fun because it has the hidden paper clip, which I'll show you how I make that in a little bit. Get out your lunch plates because I use that to round some paper to make the flaps. So let me show you how I did that. So first I start with 2 pieces that are 4.5 by 6. I take my plate and, well, first I figure out where it's going to be, and I start from 2 inches up on one side and 1 inch across on the other. I draw a quarter circle with my plate, cut 2 at the same time so they're exactly the same, score at 1/2 inch on the long sides, and then, yeah, I'm erasing my pencil lines or else they'll show, and that'll drive me crazy. Then I take some 4 by 6 pieces of cardstock. I end up cutting it down, but I trace the circle, put 2 at a time together, so I cut both of them at the same time. And that's going to be on the inside, although I messed up and I should have had a different color or a different pattern, but anyhow, that's how it worked out. So I trace and cut down to get these circular patterns, glue the plain cardstock down. Then I decide I'm going to go with that paper with the frog on it because it's just adorable. And I cut it down. Yeah, here I realize, well, no. At some point I realized I really meant one side to be facing the other way, but I just went with it. It's no big deal. So there's one. Here's the other. See, the circles shouldn't be both facing the same way, but that's okay. And then we'll just go ahead and glue these down, justified down towards the bottom. So down at the bottom equal to the paper, not to the hinge. And then I like that green check for the center. And put that in straight. I didn't notch the top of this one just because I had a frame on there and I didn't want it. It just as a design, I didn't like it, and plus the paper clip. So here's how I make the hidden paper clip. I have 2 pieces that are the same size. They are 2.5 by 3, and I fold one in half. I don't use my scoreboard, I just fold it in half, and then I burnish real well. I take my paper clip and have that small part sticking out from the top. Then I put glue around the perimeter and then a little in the center, and just glue that paper down. I want it to adhere real well, so I'll use my bone folder. Okay, then I take the other part and slip it underneath where that paper clip part is sticking out, and then fold up, making sure the sides are even. So you have a little bit of the green check showing on the bottom. And then you could just cut the top part off, but I just decide to fold it over. Should I fold it inside? Nah, I just fold it on the outside. And that's all there is really to making a hidden paper clip. So I've got that cute mushroom paper on the outside of the top, and that of course matches everything, but I do want to embellish it a little bit. I first take my corner rounder and round those corners. I should have done that before I glued it down, but of course I didn't know what size I was going to fold that, so I just do my best to get a nice little corner rounder. You don't have to. I was just trying to spruce it up a little bit. And then I went through my stash and I eventually found a blue piece of paper that I cut out a scallop circle. Then I cut out some green check and popped that up. And then I added a sticker with the mushroom and the snail and a couple of enamel dots to the side. So that is how I did my hidden paper clip. And as far as decorating it, so on the outside, I just took another scallop circle, put it down, added this green from the ephemera, popped up this cute little earthworm. On the inside, I cut out a square. I think it's, the white one is 3 and the inside one is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. I left it open on the side so you could add another little tag. Sticker, sticker, sticker. That's a sticker and that's a sticker, leaving you room here to journal. This, first I put this down. It's a little bit smaller than the other one. This is, the green part is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. So this is 2.5 by 2.5. I added this piece, just gluing down the side and the bottom and leaving it open so I could add another little tag. I put down some white cardstock here that is 2 7/8 by 4. And then on top of that I put a frame from the frames and tags, popped it up, added some green matching paper, and then a sticker. This I fussy cut from, I think it was one of the cut aparts, and that's popped up on the bottom and glued right there. So that is how I made that page. Now let's move on to the last page of decorating it. Then we'll do the back sides. All right, so I'll show you first what we're doing. So there is this flap that is held down with a piece of jute twine with a little brad and a flower at the bottom. So that comes open at the top, so there's room there. And then this will open to one side and then the other. There's a little pocket just made out of paper, but I'll show you how to decorate it. Let us talk about adding the paper to make that element. All right, so for this page you'll need one piece that is 6 by 4.5 and 2 that are 6 by 5. The 6 by 4.5 we're going to put the long side at the top of the scoreboard and score at 1/2 inch. Then I'll go ahead and grab a corner rounder and round the 2 opposite corners. I like my flaps to have rounded corners. The other 2 pieces we're just going to put the 5-inch side at the top and score at 1/2 inch. We'll go ahead and adhere the 2 6 by 5 pieces Oh, first I need to miter my corners and then adhere these two to the book. Adhere one on the right side, one on the left side, and then once those are down, take the flap and adhere that to the top of the page. To complete the decorating of this page, I am going to take a piece of plain blue coordinating paper, and I have this flower punch in my stash. I put a couple of layers, glued it together, and then adhered it onto the bottom center of that flap using an eyelet. You don't have to use an eyelet if you don't want. You could use a brad, and you could just have circles if you wanted to. So that is what I have for the flap. And then of course I've got that 4x4 cut apart that I rounded the sides, the corners. So that is going to be the top flap. I will go ahead and adhere that now the decorating onto the flap that's already on the book. Add glue around the perimeter in the center, and then put that, centering it on with just about a 1/16 of an inch showing on all four sides. I've already cut some coordinating paper to put inside, so I'm going to have the blue show. This will be a good spot to add another photograph or journaling if you want. Or you could write journaling on a piece of paper and attach it to that. Of course, I'll decorate this a little bit. I have some stickers in mind. So now let's work on the flaps on the inside, and already have that paper cut out. I'm using this flower print. I just thought it was really pretty on there. The centerpiece, before we put that down, you're going to want to remember to put string to attach to that eyelet. So don't adhere it until you've got the string. So right now I'm adding some of this pattern paper, and I will put the flowered on the front and back of both of those flaps. Then I take some of the coordinating cardstock for the centerpiece. This time I'm going to adhere it with the green showing. I just want a little bit of contrast. I glue a piece of that jute twine, and I didn't glue, I taped it down, then added glue all around it so that jute twine is peeking out from the bottom. And that'll give you a way to adhere, close everything. And on the very bottom, I have this cut apart, and I just glue two sides and the bottom to make it just a little tuck spot to decorate. And then we'll wrap that jute twine around the little flower, and then we're done. Now I've already decorated, so I'm going to walk through how I decorated the back side. Two have a long belly band, two have a short belly band, and then two have a pocket. I tried to keep it so there's no pattern to this, because if you're looking at it in this orientation, that's the top of the page. If you're looking at it the other orientation, this is the top. So I just tried to keep it pretty plain. So to make the long belly band, you will need a piece of white Artisan cardstock that is 7.5 by 1.5, or whatever width you want. And then just score with the long side at the top on both sides, and then just adhere that. Then you can put your decorative paper underneath, and then add in any cut aparts or whatever you want. For the ones going long, now this was about 1.75 inches wide, but you can make it again whatever width you want. Just cut the paper 5.5 by whatever width, and then score with the long side at the top at 1/2 inch, and rotate it and score at 1/2 inch on this side and adhere it. This page, I just made a little folder by putting the 4-inch piece in the center and scoring So because I wanted to use those cut aparts, and then I just added another cut apart onto some cardstock, and then added that inside the belly band. And of course, there you see there's a sticker on top. And then finally, two of the backs have pockets. This is from a 2" by 5.5" piece of cardstock. Score on 2 short sides, 1 long side, and adhere. And that is how we do it. So there's this one as well. Here's another long one. And then here is another pocket. And on this one, it's a bigger pocket than the other one, just because I again used what I had in my stash. And that's it as far as decorating the pages. Now let me show you how I made the beads. Okay, this is the first time I've ever made these paper beads, so it sort of is trial and error. I took some long strips of paper, and they were as thick as 1 inch at the bottom up to a very point at the top. I used a wooden skewer and just put it on. I rotated it a couple of times, added some glue, and then just kept rotating it. I think the hardest part is trying to get that point centered on the bead, and try to keep it as tight as you can, just to make it just a reasonable shape. And then once I've got the bead, then I take some Versamark ink, not ink, just watermark ink, add it to the bead, and then I dipped it in my little jar of clear embossing powder. This was sort of the chunky embossing powder, but I've also done it with the fine embossing powder. You just need to put it on several more times with the fine than you do with the chunky. Then you heat it and then dip it again. Once you heat it, it's still a little sticky, so the embossing powder will stick to it. So I did this 3 or 4 times until I got a nice clear finish. Now this was pink paper. It sort of changed it a little purpley. I thought that might, when it was cured, it might go back to the pink, but it didn't. And this was a bigger bead than what I had been using previous, but I just thought it would be easier to show you as an example. So again, start with long triangles. You could use a 12-inch triangle, or you could cut 2 of them and sort of overlap them and have 24 inches. Oh, with this one I decided I would add some sparkly embossing powder as well. Okay, to string this on to make a handle, so first of all I had a pipe cleaner. It's an old-fashioned pipe cleaner. If I had an iridescent one, I would have used that because that would have been fun. But I also took my 3 different colors of seam binding, added a bunch of glue at the end, twirled it in my fingers, and let it dry, because now it makes it so much easier to put in through a bead. Now I didn't have very much of the glue part left on this end. I keep trying to string it through the bead and it's not working. So I'm going to show you what I do. I'll grab some of my glue and just, I wouldn't say saturate, but just add some glue to the end and just twirl my seam binding together. And you probably should let it dry, but I'm impatient. I didn't let it dry, but obviously you can see it's nice and thin, and it'll fit in my little bead that I made much easier. And then it'll slip over the seam binding and also the part that's got the pipe cleaner in it. So you see some of the pretty seam binding colors are showing through. I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to cover the rest of the book, and then I'll show you how I attach this to the book. So I'm going to cover the top part of the book. Well, I call it a book. Is it a book? Well, I'm going to cover the top part. You see the pretty paper I have on the back. It's that little petite flower print. that's on the back, and I also did it on the bottom. Then that top piece, the top piece is the one next to the 2 by 5 inch piece. I'm just using a piece of this pretty flower paper. It was on the other side of the tags. Whoops, nope, 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 didn't want to do it on that. Either I'm grabbing another one or wiping off the glue. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I think I just wiped off the glue because it's the same piece. So now I'll just add glue to the perimeter. And generally when I'm doing the outside of a mini album, or in this case, a box, I guess, I add more glue around the perimeter than I normally do. I want to make sure that the outside, because that's the part that'll get knocked around a little bit more, I want to make sure that stays on real well. So I will adhere that, make sure it's on real well. And then I'll take the piece. It's got the flowers to match, but it actually was from a cut apart. I cut it down. You can see some of the banners are cut off, but I bet you wouldn't have noticed it if I didn't point it out to you. So that's going to go on that 2-inch part in the front. So again, I'll adhere it real well and put it on that 2-inch piece. And let's burnish it down so it stays. All right, now I take my ruler and I measure. I know where the center is. I think I've already marked that, but I measure 3/4 of an inch from each side on that center line, and I add a little tick mark. So I need to make a hole in this. I'm getting out the big tools. I'm getting out my hammer, and I need to lift the book up, and I have my old-fashioned hole maker. First I was going to use my coaster, and then I thought, that might not be good, so I add my mat on top of it. So that is an eyelet, part of a eyelet setter. I can also use this pokey tool to make a hole in it. So whatever you've got to make a hole. Now what I did not use was my We Are Memory Keepers crocodile. Could have used that. But whatever you need to do, make a hole on your tick marks on both sides. Okay, mission accomplished. There is a hole now. And then I take some brads that I have. No, not brads, eyelets, and put them in. Now, if you don't have eyelets, you could probably just do it without. I just as insurance, add a little glue before I put the eyelets in. Really don't need to, but I wasn't sure that it would set properly because this is pretty thick. It's the chipboard and several layers of paper. So I put the eyelets in and then use my eyelet setter and make sure they're set. Again, if you don't have an eyelet or frankly don't want to mess with it, just a regular hole would work. I just like the finished look of it. So now we'll just squeeze the handle. It's an awkward position, but I got it done. And there's an eyelet. All right. So you see it's pop. You can see it. It's not set perfectly, but it will be good enough. And then I also want to put one in the bottom center because we're going to have the seam binding coming out from the bottom center to tie. So I just adhere another eyelet there and use my setter and set it. Okay, all's good. Set it one more time, and I'm going to show you in just a second the pipe cleaners that I am using, like I said, they're the old-fashioned ones, and they're in the center. You can't see it because the seam binding, there it is. The seam binding is wrapped around. There it is, Dill's pipe cleaner. Don't know where I got them from, but they've been in my stash for a while. Any pipe cleaners you get would probably work. So I thread it in through the eyelet. I think this one side I need to cut with scissors. It needs to be a little bit shorter. And add a little bit of glue and twist it to a point so it goes in where that eyelet is. So it is probably 8 inches long, and I pull it through. I spread the seam binding, sort of open it up a little bit because I want to adhere it to the bottom, but I don't want it to be too chunky. So if I flatten it out with my fingers and adhere it, it's going to fit much better underneath the paper. I first grabbed a little bit of score tape that I have, thinking that that would work. I was looking for sheets, and then I eventually just grabbed my roll of score tape and used that. I glued the seam binding down in 3 separate places. See, I'm unraveling it and trying to lay it so it's flat. Now, I suppose you could just put a really big knot, but again, I didn't want it to show through the paper on the underside. So that is why I use this method. There was a little bit coming out, so I just cut it. Oh, I know, it was the pipe cleaner was sticking out. I had a bunch of glue here, taped down a couple of pieces. Use my bone folder to burnish it real well. Another piece of tape, another piece of tape. And I think that's as best as I can get it. Honestly, once you, I'm trying to decide what color paper to put on the underside, and I love that pink pattern. Once you put it down, you don't even know it's there. And plus it's on the underside of the lid, so nobody looks there. So I'll just go ahead and grab my pattern paper, center it on there. There's just a little bit showing, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. Burnish it real well. And there we are with that piece. I repeat the process with the ties that are coming through on the front. I did put a knot in. I decided to cut the knot and again use that same process. I add score tape to this, cover it with pattern paper, and that is the last part of what I needed to do to finish this project. And then last but not least, I cut 6 pieces of Artisan cardstock, 4 1/4 by 6 1/2, and I add pattern paper to both sides to make some photo mats, and these photo mats will go in the hidden pockets to give you ample room to put photos in this book. And that is all there is to making this upright mini album. This would be a great design for any paper, but I think you need to try it with the fairy garden paper from Echo Park. There's still some available at Country Craft Creations. This will make a great holiday present or birthday present, or even just for yourself to put pictures of, who knows, whatever you want inside. So thank you so much for watching, and have a fabulous day.